I guess we're doing no intro. We're just going to jump right into it.
Okay.
Okay, so with the first Borderlands, you introduced this Diablo-esque loot system, and all of a sudden we've got a shooter that people are putting 100, 200 plus hours into. What kind of things are you doing in Borderlands 2 to extend the replay value?
Well, with Borderlands 1, all of it was the first time we'd ever done anything like that. And it was, in fact, the first time I think the industry saw something like that. So a lot of it was experimental, and a lot of it we were discovering as we did it. In launching the game and having so many people spend so much time on it, we've learned so much. We've gotten so much information. And so one of the great things about Borderlands 2 is almost every component has had some level of iteration or polish or improvement from that understanding. Obviously, when we're having a great time with a game experience, from the customer point of view, we want to get as much value as possible for the money we spend for a game. So Borderlands is a really great choice right off the bat because there's so much opportunity for playtime in it. But with Borderlands 2, you want to maximize that as much as possible. We want to take advantage of that strength. So we've learned so much in terms of how to use the game space, what kinds of quests are fun and interesting, and what kind are, I think one of the things you're going to see less of from us is grinding, and you're going to see more meaningful activities that are connected to the story. With Borderlands 1, we gave you kind of a premise, there was a plot, but it was a very simple premise. We didn't want to burden you with story. And in Borderlands 2, if you're not interested in storytelling, you can certainly just discount it and not really pay attention to it. But everything in the game is now really connected to the universe and really connected to the sequence of events that are going to take place. And so I think the combination of how we're doing the storytelling and how we're connecting that all up to what you do and the learning from what things are the most fun and what things are the least fun in the kinds of things you do lead to not just more playtime, but better playtime. And I think better playtime is the highest priority.
Now you bring up the storytelling. One of the criticisms of the first game was the lack of an in-depth narrative. It seems like story is a much bigger focus this time around. Is that a response to the reaction of the first game, or is that something you kind of wanted all along?
There was a story in the first game, and the thing that I think we really succeeded at was the method that we chose to tell the story, which was, we're not interrupting your gameplay with complicated cutscenes. If you care about story, you can get yourself into it and learn a lot about the characters and get yourself into it. I think the first game though did a couple of things incorrectly. One of them was the ending. The ending did not pay off the promise. The promise was you're a vault hunter and you're going to get to the vault. And then, I guess we thought it was a good idea when you get there. Instead of it being a vault full of treasure, it's a prison and this horrible thing comes out and tries to kill you. What a fun twist. We're going to deny you of what you were after the whole time and instead try to kill you. It was a bit of a twist, but in fact, I think with the expectation that was set, that needed to be delivered. I think the Secret Armory of General Knox kind of showed that learning, and there's a total payoff when you finally get in the armory. The armory is like a vault, right? So that was a lesson, but a lesson from a mistake. There's other lessons that aren't necessarily mistakes; they're just iterations and learning, and that's about how to use the kind of passive method of storytelling in a better way, in a more integrated way. It is not our goal to turn Borderlands into a game about cutscenes or a game about dialogue trees. Borderlands is about gameplay. However, we found that in light of a very light kind of plot, a very kind of loose plot, and a very passive method of storytelling, we found that we and our customers became really engaged in the characters. There's a lot of fun characters, and so the idea that there would be more meaning behind why these characters are all doing their thing and how that's all connected is really exciting to make as a goal. So we've made that as a goal, connecting all the characters together and having their purpose in the world lead to meaningful ends that are all connected. So it's less about trying to force narrative down customers' throats, and more about learning what works and applying that and leveraging that. And that's about using the characters in the storytelling instead of just having interesting characters for the sake of it.
So you have these new player characters this time, but you also have a central antagonist. Tell us a little bit about Handsome Jack and how he impacts the story.
Handsome Jack is an interesting guy, and he's to be. I don't want to give any spoilers there, but he feels like the principal villain, and by having that principal villain, you have objectives and you have things that you care about, but now there's an obstacle in the way, and that obstacle's kind of thwarting you periodically. What that does is it creates a new layer of tension in the progress. Progress for the sake of it can be engaging, as we discovered in Borderlands, but when we have tension and obstacles to that progress, it makes the gratification and the victories feel better when we're able to move ahead. It also creates the opportunity to raise the stakes as we move forward, so the magnitude of the plot feels bigger and bigger. I don't know exactly what they chose to reveal so far, so I don't want to. I'm trying to be very careful because I don't want to spoil anything. I think that what we're doing there is very good. It's insanely good compared to what we did in the first game, which wasn't bad. But it's good enough where I don't want to risk spoiling much. But there are some values to having a primary antagonist. Most of the great stories that we love benefit from having a primary antagonist on top of the goals of the hero characters. New hero characters are important, and also remembering the hero characters from before and having them be part of the story is an important goal for us too. So we've kind of done all that and put that together. There was a bit of an antagonist in Borderlands 1 that was Commandant Steele, but her role was really mild, and her impact on your progress was not very profound. But for where that was, we felt that. So we knew that by amplifying that impact of a powerful antagonist, we would be having a richer experience. And the guys are, between Paul and Anthony, they're really killing it. And of course, we've got Mikey here still, and myself. So between us, it's just additive value and additive power towards storytelling. Again, I'm trying not to spoil anything, but you can tell I'm excited about what we're doing.
Well, one of the big selling points of the first game was just the amount and variety of weapons, and this time it seems like you want the gun manufacturers to have their own brand identity. Do you have like a personal preference of a gun manufacturer and their weapons?
Oh man, there's so many good ones. Yeah, that was, obviously having a lot of variety in loot was a really important deal. And we created these brands, like the ideas of Hyperion and Dahl and Tediore. We found that we actually became attached to the idea behind these brands, and that customers became attached. So we're amplifying those identities in a major way. So when you see a Jacobs weapon, it is now even more distinctly Jacobs. Really rustic, feels very Old West, and nothing else nothing else gets in that space. The Vladov stuff, like you look at it, you're like, yeah, that feels like a Russian, kind of styling, and you could feel the influences. I'm really liking the. I think my favorite stuff is like the crazy hodgepodge kind of bandit stuff, where the scope is a beer bottle, and like things like that, like where it's just like kind of a mishmash. The tech stuff feels really good. Some of the stuff from Maliwan and Tediore are really cool too. But what I think appeals to me most is how distinctive each weapon manufacturer is now. You will. We were able to determine generally which manufacturer by the stats and sometimes by the look of the gun. Now, like a mile away, you see that gun on the ground. You're like, okay, you're going to become really, you're going to be able to really closely affiliate the design of a weapon with its manufacturer, and I think that it makes it easier for us to understand our preferences and to have our preferences relate to the options that are in the game, which is good when you have a game that has a lot to do with choice.
Now the new Berserker ability is you can dual wield 2 weapons, and that's something we've seen before in first-person shooters, but explain a little bit about how Borderlands works with weapons, how it's going to be a different experience.
Yeah, well, we're used to getting our guns and having our primary weapon and using it. The Berserker, the fundamental thing about him is he can go into this kind of excited, roided out, rage state. He's kind of like, he becomes like the Incredible Hulk. And in Borderlands 1, he would be limited to his fists, but his punches would be incredibly powerful. What we've done in Borderlands 2 is we wanted to have the Berserker power give us that feeling again, but we didn't want to have that come at a penalty of losing your ranged attack. and we wanted it to feel like a roided out, super excited, super powerful ranged attack. So naturally, he is now the only character that, when he's in this powerful state, can become so strong that he can bring up two weapons at the same time, even if they're friggin' rocket launchers. Even heavy things that you've never seen people dual wield in a game before. Usually we get pistols or light machine guns. Now he can bring up these two weapons and go nuts with them. It's a more powerful attack. He gets other boosts along with it depending on how you spec him out. In addition, his melee attack is still there, so you get up on a guy, and now you can use your melee button and do a roided out, super powerful melee attack. So it's kind of like taking the Berserker and adding on top of it the idea of this enraged ranged attack, but using the character's abilities rather than kind of this temporary range attack, like using the guns that you've collected and just adding more power to the equation. This gets really interesting when the two weapons that you're going to come up have kind of additive abilities, like with the special effect of the weapons. There's some really interesting things that can kind of emerge from that. When you're hitting a guy with fire and electricity at the same time, for example, it gets kind of cool.
Well, so you mentioned melee. Let's say someone really liked the way Brick worked when he did his ability in the first game. Can they basically play like that and just run around?
Yeah, run up and melee the crap out of the guys, and he'll be super badass. And that's something that we recognized, is that there is a tremendous desire and interest in new things, new kind of design and new experiences within Borderlands 2. At the same time, there are a lot of people that ended up playing Borderlands. The game has sold, I think the last public count of that was over 4.5 million units, and then you can imagine another million or two that are used, cycled, or whatever. So there's probably like 5.5, 6 million customers out there that have played Borderlands, and they've become familiar with the things that they like. So we want to bring those experiences back again in a way that is at minimum respectful of those experiences, and at best improved, like more powerful or more interesting or just more fun kind of representations of that. So with the Berserker, that happens, right? You can, if you want to just melee, go for it. And it's that powerful, epic melee. And there's actually some other details of that which we're currently engaged in, which make that really cool. Like, instead of just, you've done the damage, and like ways to animate and connect up with your target so that you're feeling custom kind of melee attacks and custom melee impacts. And you'll see some of this down the road as we get that work completed.
So the last game was one of the first games this generation to offer like really seamless drop-in, drop-out co-op. What kind of things are you doing in the online space this time around to improve that even more?
Yeah, there's a number of things that are objectives of ours with respect to co-op. There's a whole spectrum of them. Some of them are about the usability of it and the use cases. Sometimes we have a split screen use case. Sometimes we have a internet use case. Sometimes we have people that wanted to do a combination of both. Like some of the improvements are as simple as how we've created the menus now. They're very nice and make it really easy to be compatible with a split screen environment. Before, when you're split screen, the menu was so big, we kind of had this thing where you kind of panned around just to see everything. Now we've got a system which makes it easy to render it in any frame shape. So that's supported nicely in split screen. The other thing that we know a lot of people wanted to do was, look, I'm playing with my friend locally, but I want to connect to someone else. And we had an either-or option because of the limits at the time with bandwidth and with just networking performance. Where if you're playing a LAN game, if you're playing a local split screen game, that's your co-op game, or you can play. You could use your box to play a single player and then connect with someone else on the internet, but you couldn't do both split screen and connect to somebody else. Our engineers have cracked that nut. Some of it is because our thresholds for bandwidth tolerance are a little higher today than they were, but some of it's because of new technology that we've been able to create that manages how to deal with the fact that you're simulating two people on one box and maybe someone on a different box, and these two people are connecting to that guy. So you can have a split screen game now connecting to some other game on the internet, and that's kind of cool. We're not sure if we can get split screen connected to split screen to get the 4 players. We might have to have a split screen connect to a single screen host, and then some other player can connect to that. But we'll see how far we can get. We want to be there, but it's all, there's the speed of light sucks, and there's some other problems that we have to face. But that's just kind of like details when you're in the game. And in addition, Borderlands 1 saved your content locally. We're doing some things that we hope are on all platforms that allow you to save your content on the cloud, so that you'll never lose content. And you can, as long as you can access your account, you can be at your friend's house or whatever and continue playing with your character. Now we have some more details to talk about there and some things to work out with that, but it's an objective we have.
We did notice some small tweaks, like you mentioned. The menu looks a lot cleaner now.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that health pickups and power ups are a lot more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
What other more minor tweaks are being made?
Across the board, I mean, I would not be able to enumerate them all because you know how many features are in the game, but every single thing in Borderlands had some thinking about it towards, okay, what can we do better? What have we learned, and what can we do better? So some of it's subtle, but if you look at it, you can see that everything has gotten a little bit of, somewhere between a little bit of attention to a lot of attention, depending on what that thing is. The menus are a big deal. Not only are they cleaner and more accessible and just nicer looking and easier to use, but the context is cooler now too. It's like and when it's fully realized, you'll see how cool this is. The menu is something that the character is actually using in the game world. Like he has tech, which brings it up, so the character is actually looking at the map, and he's using this as this kind of, and you're seeing behind his shoulder. The camera actually pulls back, which gives us two cool things. One, it kind of puts that menu interface as something that makes sense in the context of the world. Two, I now see my character while I'm doing it, so I can see the gear on my character, the weapons on the character. I can see what my character looks like and the other ways that I've customized him. And of course, we have a lot more customization of characters than we did in the first game now. So that's cool too. And then the nature of how that's set up and rendered, of course, that serves whether I'm playing split screen or single, on a full screen or whatever I'm doing there. And it adapts to standard definition, high definition, all that. So that's like been really thought through with all the possible use cases for usability, accessibility, simplicity, cleanliness, just making it feel hot, nice, and giving us those other desires to see our character in there. That's just one aspect. Pretty much everything in the game has been thought about. It's in something done there.
All right, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
You know me, I'll talk about the games we do here forever. So thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Cheers.